West, guns, and religion. In order to understand how and why the Waco siege took place, and possibly how it could have been avoided, a brief examination of how the Branch Davidians fit into the unique culture and history of the American West is warranted. The role that the United States Constitution, or at least interpretations of it, played in the Davidians' ideology must also be considered. When the United States Congress ratified its new nation's Constitution in 1787, it differed little from those of other Western European nations of the time. It outlined the form of the government, and how powers would be delegated by the different branches. What set the United States Constitution apart from those of Europe was the inclusion of the Bill of Rights, 10 amendments that essentially limit the central government's power, in 1791. The First Amendment, and therefore the most important to the Constitution's framers, concerns ideas of freedom of speech, religion, and assembly. The text reads, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." The limits of the amendment have been challenged in the courts on numerous occasions, and certain legal precedents have been established. It has been deemed illegal to advocate crimes such as rebellion or murder, but hate speech is protected under the amendment. Lies and libelous speech are also not protected, with offenders being potential subjects to lawsuits, but not criminal prosecution. In terms of the Waco siege, the first clause of the First Amendment and the one pertaining to peaceful assembly are the pertinent points. Equally important to the First Amendment in understanding the Waco siege is the Second Amendment. The text of the Second Amendment reads, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." The Second Amendment has experienced a more contentious history and has been challenged many more times in the courts, but the core of the text, the second clause, has never been threatened in American history. Most of the limits imposed on the Second Amendment by Congress throughout American history have been concentrated on how many guns individuals should be allowed to own, and what type of guns. For instance, should Americans be allowed to collect arsenals comprised of hundreds of military-grade weapons? The initial raid on Mount Carmel concerned both of these points, and is therefore extremely important when considering the context of the Waco siege. But the Branch Davidians were neither the first obscure religious sect in American history, nor the first to amass a considerable arsenal of guns. In many ways, they were just carrying on a long tradition that had been common in the American West. God, guns, and the West. Since the 19th century, the American West has drawn a plethora of different people to its mountains and prairies, who felt restricted by the urban sprawl east of the Mississippi. A diverse branch of religious zealots, pioneers, reformers, outlaws, and lawmen made the Western territories and later states their homes and helped inspire the imagination of people around the world. During the middle of the 20th century, dime store novels written by authors such as Zane Grey and Louis L'Amour, and television shows like The Rifleman and Gunsmoke captured the spirit of the American West in fiction. But often fiction was not far from reality. Pioneers who came to the newly opened Western territories in the 19th century often had to rely on themselves and their neighbors for protection from hostile Indians and outlaws. Frontier pioneers also had to be their own doctors, which helped to further the independent nature of these people. Most ranches and farmsteads had several guns, and when malfeasants were captured, justice was usually swift and sharp. By the middle of the 19th century, a culture developed in the American West that is still apparent there today. Somewhat socially conservative, yet libertarian, Western states were among the first in the United States to give women the right to vote. Westerners loved their God and guns, and did not like to tell others how to live their lives, and did not like the government telling them how to live theirs. Among the many different sects that made the American West their home in the 19th century, the group with the most similarities to the Branch Davidians were the Mormons.